First of all, I'm not going to wax lyrical about what the point of sedimentation equilibrium is. I'm assuming everyone in the room at least has a vague idea of what that method is, but very briefly, it's a time-independent measure of the molar mass because you're balancing out the sedimentation forces, the diffusion forces, and from the Svedberg equation, you can get molar mass from that. So what Arthur did is coded up something called MULTISIG. So MULTISIG measures 17 different molar masses, or in fact, 17 different reduced molar masses, and then measures the concentration of each of those molar masses to give a distribution out. And he coded it up in Pascal, which is fine, and that runs on a software called Profit. Profit only runs on Macintosh. It is still in development, but the code for this doesn't transfer easily from one version to another. So currently, the only working versions on the planet are 1 on Arthur Rowe's personal laptop and 2 on the Mini Mac in the Lines. Now, that feels a little bit precarious to me. Arthur Rowe, with all due respect, is in his 90s. Steve, how old is Arthur now?
Same age as my mum, 92. There was an old Fortran version which I knocked up of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, 92.
Does it still have the laptop with the version?
I assume that Arthur still has his laptop. Yeah.
So assuming Arthur kept his laptop, so it might be going to be only one copy on the Mini Mac and the Lines.
Yeah, essentially. And if I'm hit by a bus, you know, touch wood, that's it, right? And I don't want to be hit by a bus. But equally, if I am, I would like MULTISIG to live on. So that was part of the problem. So MULTISIG yields a distribution of species from AUC sedimentation equilibrium, as opposed to M-star. So M-star also does sedimentation equilibrium, but it kind of measures the entire thing and gives a weight average. MULTISIG gives a weight average, but it also gives a Z average and an M average, as well as any kind of interesting distributions that you find in there. Now, it's very low resolution. SedFit for sedimentation velocity can give you resolutions in the hundreds, 200, 300. This is a resolution of 17. So it's not amazing resolution, but for equilibrium, that's better than a resolution of 1. So,
sorry, Richard, just interrupt. And it's based on rigorous thermodynamic principles, whereas
yes,
to get distributions from sedimenting velocity, you make various assumptions over conformation. And SedFit M-star will also give you a distribution, but it's
it does. So it has the C of M, which is okay, but it's not.
Doesn't resolve.
It doesn't resolve that well. So this is Profit on the Mac. So what you would normally do as a workflow is you would load your data. It never loads properly, so you need to do some right clicking and making sure that it's actually in the right data format. And you get this, which is the useless air on air bit. This is the meniscus. That's the cell base. This bit really is the only useful bit. So you need to do what's called the popping and tailing, which takes 2 minutes if you know what you're doing. So you essentially need to delete all that, and you need to delete that and make sure it's all nice and clear. Arthur also had a thing where you needed to make sure it was only 200 data points in there, but I don't think that's entirely necessary, but okay, whatever. Anyway, once you've done that, you spent 2 minutes working on that. Then you would initialize the program. So you would have your 17 different concentrations here, as well as baseline. You set your sigma. Your radial value is where on the line you want to base your fit. So in this one, this is 7.05. So it's around about here. Usually you want it about there. And then what concentration you think it is, it doesn't really matter. Don't worry, central sigma, I'll show you what that means in a bit. This says how much error you should put in when it's re-randomizing and how many iterations. And what you would normally do is click OK and put the kettle on, because 20 iterations will take you about 20 minutes, half an hour, roughly speaking. Maybe a bit faster, 15 minutes, who knows? But you put the kettle on. It's not great. That assumes, of course, that you put in all your parameters correctly. And let's assume you have. It comes out with a fit. Trying to get these plots out means you need to have an intimate knowledge of how Profit works, and it's quite a pain to make sure that you get these plots that you need. It comes out with an output, which is in this sort of notes file, which you can then copy paste into another thing. And this is on the Minimac. The Minimac requires a USB stick to get data off. Right. I mean, I used to be able to email it to myself, but I can't update anything here so that I can actually have an email account on it. So you have to take it off with a USB stick. The other thing is it gives you values in sigma. Now, if you want to think in sigma, sigma's not a terrible way to think about it. It's the reduced molar mass. And what it means is that if you have something at 1 sigma and you have something at 2 sigma, 2 sigma is double the molecular weight of 1 sigma. So if you're dealing with a monomer dimer system, 1 sigma, 2 sigma, that's your monomer and your dimer. Fine, right? That's absolutely fine. But most people like their molecular weights and like to know what that actually means in real life. So you either need to plug that into Excel and know how to use Excel well enough to use that formula, or we use Seventerp, and that's fine. Neither method is terrible, but it's all just that little bit extra faff in order to get it into a usable format. And that's running it once. Then you want to run it again for another 20, 30 minutes. Fine, you go right ahead. But in order to get everything done, that's a morning or an afternoon for a 7-hole rotor. So there are many limitations to multisig. So availability, only available on 2 devices, of which we know only one of them exists and still runs. It's quite complicated to use. If you were following along, great. If you didn't understand what I was talking about, I don't blame you, because quite frankly, it's not a user-friendly program. 20 minutes to run, reasonable. If you get your parameters right the first time, brilliant. If you don't, bad luck, that's another 20 minutes. So this is a problem. And you can only run 20 reps at a time. It has a Stack Overflow problem. So if you're trying to type in 21, it'll just overwrite the first one. So this is a major issue. In terms of the science of multisig, it doesn't account for non-ideality. So if you've got a really strong concentration, then it won't take that into account, and there'll be strong non-ideality, and it may not fit properly, and it'll give you a very low underestimate. It's based on radial point fitting. So the good thing about MSTAR, SedFit MSTAR, takes into account the entire distribution and the molar mass and the entire distribution, whereas multisig does it at a particular point. That can also be an advantage, because you can say, I want to take it at 20 different points, and then you can plot against concentration. That can be quite useful. Experimental design, crap in, crap out. If you haven't done your experimental design properly, multisig can't fix that for you. All it will do is just spout out it'll give you a molecular weight. And you can't really fix signal to noise problems. So if you have really noisy data, good luck. Multisig really needs nice clean data in order for it to work properly. So all of these problems, first of all, I tried to fix it myself, because I thought, why not? One of the thoughts I had was remote desktopping to the Minimac. So the Minimac is designed to be a server. So the idea is that you can SSH into it, and you can load your data up from an external source and then pull it out. The Minimac has 8 cores, and Profit's development team hate multitasking. They hate multi-threading. So they just use 1 core at a time, which is ridiculous, but that's what they want to do. I could never get it to work effectively. So I could get in, I could load some data, and then the whole thing would crash. So this wasn't going to work. In fact, I think at one point I had 3 different machines SSHing into the Minimac using 3 different cores, and then it all crashed. So anyway, that wasn't going to happen. And I thought, how hard can it be to code it myself? I have the Pascal code. I just need to translate it into something else. First thing I tried was MATLAB. MATLAB definitely likes multi-threading, so I was like, yes, we'll try that. And this was the result. So I tried to put in a log normal distribution, and it came out with this. And you know, sometimes when your data is trying to tell you something, but you just can't put your finger on it. I tried in Origin Lab. Origin Lab is brilliant for quality plots, can also do pretty complicated curve fitting, but not this kind of curve fitting. So it didn't work. Tried coding up in Python. Apparently I don't know how to code in Python. So anyway, after about 10 years of trying, I finally gave up and asked for help. So just unveiling MULTISIG2. Yeah, I spent too long on that one. So I approached this guy. This guy is called Sam. Really, he's nerdy. He knows how to use a computer. And I showed him the code, and he went, I could code this up in like 10 minutes, which I was like, that's really annoying because I spent 10 years trying to code this up. Anyway, whatever. He said, we don't have the funding, so what we'll do is we will get a master student, Rodney, to code it up for you, and we'll use it as part of his MSc dissertation. So we have been running a master's dissertation where I am the client and Rodney is the developer, and he has been developing some software for me. And rather annoyingly, he titled it Update of Legacy Software, which I was like, what do you mean legacy software? It's from 2012. Oh yeah, okay, that's 13, 14 years ago. Oh,
that's
okay.
fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, yeah, okay, it's legacy software. So as Rodney is an expert in user interface, user experience. So I showed him lots of different types of software which our community uses. I showed him SedFit, and I said, I like SedFit for this. I hate SedFit for this. I showed him UltraScan. I showed him SedInterp. I showed him SedAnal. And I said, stop laughing. It's called SedAnal. And ignore the fact that the help thing is the developer's dog. So I said, this is the level at which we're aiming at, okay? And he was like, yeah, I can do better than that. So he did. First of all, it's no longer software. It's an app. It's based on the web. So if you have a computer, you have access to the internet, you have a web browser, you can run multisig. No more of this. Do you have a Mac? Have you loaded Profit on the Mac? No. It's an app. Okay. I have tried it on two different, well, I've only tried it on one operating system, but I've tried it on two different browsers, same experience, okay? Absolutely brilliant. And it is fast, very fast, okay? Just as a spoiler, as a rough guide, I put in 20 repeats and it was not, I didn't have to put the kettle on, right? I was astounded. Ridiculously much easier to use. If you can figure out how to use SedFit MStar, you can figure out how to use this. I would argue that this is easier, right? Automatic conversion of sigma into molecular weight. No more SedInterp, no more shoving it into Excel and then hoping your Excel skills are good enough. It'll do it all for you, okay? It collects your rotor speed and temperature from the IP file. All you need to tell it is the V bar in the row. It automatically sets it to 0.73 and 1 anyway. So if you're not that far out, it probably isn't going to be that far out. Don't worry about it. Automatic, no changes. It'll also automatically calculate your averages and standard deviation, right? No, none of this. Okay, now I need to import it into Excel and then spend another 20 minutes ticking it around trying to get. No. Does it all for you. Automatic production of publication quality outputs. I don't need to take it onto another computer and load it onto Origin in order to put it into a plot. It'll create the plots. If you still have trust issues and don't like the plots, it'll give you the data and you can still do it yourself. But it will give you the publication quality plot that you need. Still some stuff that we need to work on. It's rough around the edges. We know about this. Also, 2 weeks ago when I initially showed this, it was multiplying all the numbers by 2. We haven't fixed that. So we need to fix that at some point. It's still giving double, the sigmas are correct. Molecular weights are double. Don't worry about it. It's not hard to fix. You still require some skill to use it, but I mean, you're all very clever people. I'm sure you'll figure it out. I have a little bit of concern about data privacy. What I would say about this is if you're uploading data, as long as you've coded it and no one can figure out what your code is, they can't do anything with it. So I'm not that concerned. But for example, if you were a private company, very careful about your IP, then you might be concerned about using this. But you've got other alternatives, so I'm not that concerned. It doesn't fix stuff like the non-ideality or the crap in, crap out problem. But, you know, I'm not a wizard. And I joke, but I have sort of the washing machine principle, where if you put the washing machine on, it takes what, 1 hour, 2 hours to run your washing machine. Nobody's standing there for 1 hour or 2 hours watching the washing machine go, right? You put it on and you go do something else. This is how I used to do my multi-sig. I would run it, I'd go do something else, and then I'd come back and find it finished an hour later. That being said, I'm sure if you sold a washing machine which could like wash all your clothes in 5 minutes, then that would sell more than the one which takes an hour. So that's all I'm saying. A few things which we might be in the pipeline, but we still need to figure out. A system called multisig radius. So in Profit, there is a function where it'll run multisig multiple times along the thing, and then it gives you molar mass against radius / concentration, which can be useful. With this software, as it is at the moment, you need to do that manually, but it's ridiculously easy to use manually. So it's in the pipeline, but not done yet. One thing, it sort of does portfolio management, but it doesn't do it very well. But like a sed-fat style thing, where if I've loaded 7 different things, they're all the same, but they're different concentrations, and then say that's concentration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then do like stats and trends and stuff. That would be nice. Isn't in there yet. The other thing in terms of this, at some point I need to put it up as a publication and get people using it. So I would like some feedback at some point as to how I'm going to get this published, but we'll talk about that later. You want to see it, right? So let's take a look. So I've taken some screenshots. So this is the loading page. Didn't take that long to load. So this is sort of the bit on the left is the interesting bit to start with. So you browse your files, you load up an IP file, and you know, limit of 200 megabytes. There's no IP files bigger than a few megabytes, so don't worry about that. So I've done that. I've loaded it. I've put in some reference values. You can scroll down to the bottom, and there's a button at the bottom that says Run Multisig Fit. Brilliant. And you press that. It's loaded the data. So it's tried to fit a line along it, but as you can see, there's stuff which is air on air. That's the meniscus. That's the other meniscus. It's not done a great job, but that's fine because we can top and tail it. Top and tailing used to take about 2 minutes if you knew what you were doing. This took me about 5 seconds. So I just read off I need about 6.95 and I need 7.16 or 8, whatever. Okay, did that. There we go, done. And now I need to check the sigma plot. So this is the sigma plot. This is where you start playing around with these reference values. So this was a bit high. This was 1.5. I think I turned it down to 0.75 for later on. So that just means it's starting off here, 1.5. It then halves it and then multiplies by a certain amount to get 17 different points. So I chose 0.75 because that's roughly where the distribution is. Reference radius, I changed to about 7.08, I think, which is about here. So that's all done. I put that as 5 while I was doing it. Just check this. That's the kind of distribution which you're looking for. That's not bad. There's a little bit of trending going on here, but actually fairly stochastic going on. Fine. Change the number of fits. I think I changed it to 50. Done. And I timed it. So a bit of audience participation. How long do you think it took to do 50 repeats?
Well, you said like 5 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
50 times 10.
I'll spoil it. All right. 4.1 seconds. Wait. It's criminally quick, right? That's just, I feel bad, right? Anyway, go on. We're done. So time to export the data. You can export it as a CSV. So this exports the mass summary. So this is the this information is downloadable. This is the coefficient plot, so you can download the plot. You can download the CSV of this data if you don't trust this plot for publication purposes. You can download that as well. You can download the full information on how many repeats it did, including the mean and standard deviation. Brilliant. That's pretty much it. I can show you live, but last time it was a bit laggy live. That's pretty much everything I have on it. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, this is great. Richard, say.
Well, what was the example, Richard? You showed what was
that was lambda carrageenan.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay. And what were the values you got for the molecular weights, MWMN? You just measured it in one radial position, is that right? Or did you?
That was at one radial position, but if it's 4 seconds, it probably would have taken me about a minute to get a full data set. So 740, but divide that by 2, so that's 370 kDa.
Okay.
Which I think is about right. We have validated this against the old multisig. So that was one of his chapters in his master's dissertation, the validation against the old system. We validated it for antibodies, a polyland sample, and a simulated data set. And they all came out perfect.
Okay. The factor of 2 you dealt with, you talked. That was you got that one sorted. Yeah.
We need to get that sorted. That's not quite done.
Okay.
But it's somewhere it's going through the code and removing the 2.
Yeah. And in terms of non-ideality, that affects other methods as well. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So solution is to in your 7-hole rotor or 4 just do a few different concentrations, and if you're low enough, of course, then
with the old system.
Is more.
If you did a concentration series with the old system, that was a day's work. This is half an hour.
Yeah. Okay. Apart from loading the cells and things. Yeah.
Running it over the weekend. Yeah, I know. Anyway, but
so don't worry about the non-ideality. That can be dealt with. So
yeah.
What would you recommend, Richard, if you were analysing? Would you run SedFit M-star first, and then, having got the global perspective, that looks interesting enough, then put it through the multi-sig?
Just run both. As a matter of course, just run both.
I notice you got four components coming off there. Does that mean the rest of the other 13, because it's 17 component fit, isn't it? The other 13 are 0 essentially, or negative?
I think they were so close to 0 that they weren't showing up. I think if you look into the data, it's like 0.000000015, or like it's doing that kind of thing. But
as high as that. As high as that.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks great. I mean, it's just a question of, and what you've done is successfully got round the classical thing about programming, is that in the past only the programmer himself or herself understood how to run a program correctly. This is why Peter Schuck's been so good. Actually, he's sort of bust those barriers with his SedFit, and we jumped on the back of him with SedFit M-star. So I think that's important. Then the next thing is to get people to use it, and not just our lab, try and get it out to the community. Maybe at the next, because there's going to be a big meeting in Uppsala later on this year, because this year is the 100th anniversary of Svedberg getting the Nobel Prize. So
Yeah,
that would be a good forum, Richard, to...
it would. It just needs it needs tidying up before it can leave these out this trusted group.
Well,
Yeah.
you need to get that factor of 2, definitely.
The factor of 2, and it's still a little bit rough around the edges. Like there's certain, it's like it'll have 2 figures next to each other and one will just be like that, and it's like no, it needs to be lined up. These are minor points.
Okay, because you don't when people are running multisig, you don't want to be pestered all the time by people coming to you.
Yeah, I know.
Like the old height fit thing we were doing, fitting flexibility parameters and things that required. Yeah, but that's what a centre should be about. You know, we should be able to provide that skilled analysis. It's no bad thing that the general community can't do that sort of stuff, but at least we need to be able to do it within our group. Good. Anyway, I've said my bit. Guys, Gleb, Jacob, Paul,
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like carrageenan is something I'm interested in terms of a master's project I'm doing in bioprinting. So how different concentrations of carrageenan can influence the viscosity, but I'll be also very interested to see if we can get different molecular weights and how we can link that up to viscosity as well. So that'd be really, really interesting. I'll definitely pull you up on that, and I'll make a visit to Nottingham and bring some samples with me, and I think we should link up.
Jacob, by the way, is the master of bioprinting.
Oh God, that's a long time ago.
Remember this?
Is that 3D printed?
Yeah. The cell
centerpiece to buy. That would cost them back when that would cost about.
Well, you know, we need to run it first to see if it withstands.
You wouldn't be feeling $2,000, put it that way, if you bought that.
But if it withstands the pull of a white dwarf, the tonnage.
It's not quite. 1 gram weighs, what is it, half ton?
Yeah. My God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is really cool, and I'm very impressed about how high throughput this could be, the time and effort you're saving, and the accuracy as well, which is really good, Richard. I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, this is brilliant. We just need to make sure that we can export all the data for the...
All exportable, all CSVs. You can export plots if you want to. The only thing which I've also asked Rodney to look into is if we can just dump the, as you've exported the results, can we export the dump of, okay, what was the V-bar row we put in? Dumping all that, which I'm 90% sure is trivial.
Yeah,
so
it's all for
the students, basically, for Alicia, Dal, and Moyang. What sigma means is you don't have to worry about B-bars and rotor speeds and all this sort of stuff. The sigma is what basically molecular weight not corrected for all that. And then if it looks interesting, then you get the molecular weight. But you don't have to, because it's still automatic now, isn't it, Richard, in the program? You get molecular weight as well if you know B-bar and the density of the solvent, which you should do. Yeah. Good. So we're all going to be using multisig now.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Is it live already?
It is technically live, but I've not spread around the hyperlink yet because I want some of the things fixed. But yeah, technically it's live.
I didn't get that bit about privacy. I mean, the data is still local and the fitting is still locally done on the browser.
You are uploading your data to a server, and the server is doing all the number crunching.
Right.
So that's why I've said if you code everything correctly, like in the file, you don't actually use what your sample name is and you just code it, no one will know what it is.
Yeah.
If you really care about that kind of stuff.
I mean, on the web browser, you could, or your student could change it to just to the fitting on the local cores on the machine?
I think I brought this up with him and I was like, can we have a standalone app where you could download it? And he gave me that, yeah, in the kind of way of, no, I'm not doing it.
No, not an app. It will still be on the browser.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the fitting will use cores locally on the machine. Because
I will check with him about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Because
think
he's
using an external server at the
which
moment.
means you're using external numerical algorithms to do the fitting, basically.
Yeah.
Not on the...
It's just whether you use your own silicon or a silicon on the other side of the planet.
Okay.
Somebody has taken this title, MULTISIG2, on GitHub.
Have they?
Are they?
But it's some financial app.
Yeah. MULTISIG, yeah, it's some, because I got a random email from a banker going like, oh, yeah. you've got a publication of MULTISIG.
I'll share the GitHub link.
Yeah, I need to come up maybe a better name than MULTISIG2 then.
Can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. I mean, the NCMH is the National Centre for Mental Health. Now, although we got there, it's based in Cardiff actually, Jacob, but we got there first. We got there a good 20 years before they did. But you can't ask them to change.
Yeah, that's true. It's part of ESCRI, European Cancer Stem Cell Research Institute. Yeah.
So you're going to get this.
It's in that building.
RSC, Royal Society of Chemistry, Royal Shakespeare Company. You're going to get this.